All right, so sitting here back in Canada on the street Corvette, I'm gonna go over the event recap of Riga and actually dive into what really happened, and we'll give you some good visuals at the same time. So starting the event, a lot of you guys knew, some of you guys didn't. I actually went by myself super early because the car was completely disassembled. There was not even a brake line or a piece of wire in the front end. It was just two frame rails that were not straight. So with the help of a fellow driver, Edgar, who actually uses the same number as I do, number 13, but to the extent that all of his restaurants also have the number 13 on every single box. If you don't know who Edgar is, he owns Kebab Factory. Amazing food, great guy, great food. I love to eat a lot of meat. He gives you all the meat. Size matters, everything. It's all in his boxes. They're super cool. Anyways, the car was at the shop, which is his spotter, RRM Auto, where I was hanging out with these guys for 4 days. They were kind enough to feed me, give me a lot of space, all the tools I needed. If I was missing something and they could tell I was looking, they would immediately be like, what do you need? So it was really great working there for 4 days on getting my car back together, and anything I needed a hand with, they jumped in. To be honest, the expectations for this round was really nothing. I had no expectations. The car on the first day looked finally like a car again, but heading to the track, the guys at the shop were like, hey, do you want to get an actual alignment? There's a drift shop called Drift Arbnita that does alignments, and you should stop there. And I mean, gonna be completely honest with you guys, running on fumes for budget and energy and everything else, I was like, I can just do a string alignment at the track or something, but something told me I should bring the car and get it aligned there. And honestly guys, having problems is not a bad thing. Having problems is an amazing opportunity to resolve the issue through people with their willingness to help. It's crazy, the guys that I've now met. You know, these are gonna be lifelong relationships that are gonna benefit both me, I'm gonna be able to help them, and through the business, there is a lot of avenues that we can now venture down because the guys that I met at the alignment shop actually ended up being my team for that weekend. And we did awesome. Like really, all things considered, it was a fantastic weekend. So going from the alignment shop, we then realized how off some points were due to the chassis damage and how much the subframe may have been shifted and everything else. So from there, these guys were able to help me work with them on the alignment rack and get this car absolutely dialed. And when I say this car drove well, it's driven the best it's driven since we built the car. And that was honestly just driving the 2.5 kilometers up to the grid with the car cruising at like 140 kilometers an hour through the trees, and it looks like an abandoned Jurassic Park, honestly. The fences are overgrown and rusty. Trees are everywhere, tall, green, luscious looking land. If they just put a dinosaur somewhere, it'd fit right in. And I'd love to see it. A little T-Rex or Bronchosaurus or something, I don't know. But driving back to the track was just as good and fun as driving the actual track. And after getting the help from them, the owner, Maurice of Drift Arbnita, said, if you need help, just let me know. So the next day I let him know we needed help. Maurice and Yanis really played a huge role in making this weekend work because we did have a lot of issues with the car, and all of the issues revolved around the ignition or timing or something to do with the firing of the engine. Basically, we mechanically determined that we have fuel and we have spark. So really, all you need for an engine to run are those two things. But when is the spark happening, and where is the fuel, and is the fuel good, and all these other things that we determined. We did every test possible and everything checked out. So these guys were helping me rip apart the manifold, do all this stuff. And one story that I have for you that we actually didn't really talk about was that when we pulled the injectors to test them, they have an O-ring, which everyone knows, but then they have this plastic clip that holds the O-ring on the injector. These plastic clips, 3 out of 8 fell off the injector and inside of the engine. So for 2 hours, we were missing practice before qualifying. So we didn't practice before qualifying because I was pulling O-rings out of the engine with a zip tie and grease and Vaseline and all these other things. Long story short, when I got this O-ring off of the piston, past the valve, and held it up in the air after using 2 hands of flashlight, and I swear I could only see it on one specific angle through one little beam of light. When I grabbed it and pulled it out, I was holding it like I just caught the biggest bass I've ever fished for. And it was pretty funny because obviously holding it like this, you almost couldn't see what I was holding. But man, talk about the challenges and overcoming them to then qualify at Riga, where no locals from Latvia even qualified in Drift Masters. There was over 50 cars. So the first win was the car was drivable after the impact in Finland. The second win, I guess qualifying without any practice. The third win would have been, I don't know, there's a lot, just driving in Riga in general. 4, 5, 6, there was a lot of wins that we can take away. Even though we lost in the top 32 against James Dean, we were winning most of the time. And you can't win unless there's something to actually achieve. So basically, we got the O-rings out of the engine, another win. Shouldn't have lost have been there. Moving on to completing the qualification, we got 30th, 74.5. The run was pretty decent. Obviously, I could have been just wider everywhere, but that comes with more laps and more experience. Going into 32 against James Dean, again, expectations were not high. And leading up to it, all I was saying to myself is that I'm not gonna be outrun on the run-up. So I made sure I rolled the line, got right up, tucked in behind him, and when I initiated, things were going well. I knew I was slightly inside, so I was correcting the line, but basically, when I had timed the transition to outer zone 2, everything was going really well. When I transitioned, I knew that it was perfect to dive in just after 2, and through 3, 4, into 5, I was gonna be right there. I had the pace, the car was working good. We were running tires that were smaller. Valino ran out and we didn't order enough. So our fault, a little bit of their fault, mostly our fault. Going into outer 2, you may have noticed that I lost a bunch of pace. Well, I actually shattered my wheel by hitting the outer zone 2 curb, which is really funny because in the simulator, if you do that, exact same thing in the chase, exactly the same thing happens. The car likes to rotate too much to angle and you scrub a bunch of speed. Some people were even spinning out there. We did hold on to it, but it disrupted and ruined the run and it broke the wheel. So not realizing the wheel was broken, I finished the run and I made sure that I left a tire mark on James Dean's door. So basically I was shallow and off everywhere. At the finish line, I was just touched him. That was what I wanted to do. And I was able to do at least that. So, I mean, we lost, but there's another win. In the lead run, on the run-up, I'm recognizing that something is a little out of balance. Don't know what it is, don't have time to think about it, but we're still hammering down, flooring it. Later to realize when I pulled in the pits, not believing that the tire was still holding air, a good chunk of like 10 inches of the rim is actually gone. The lip isn't there. And it's on the outside tire of the last wall. So there's a photo where you can actually see it, which is hilarious because that tire could have or should have DB'd it at any point, which would have been a way worse way to run that battle. So I'm glad it held there because it was fun regardless. All in all, that's kind of the end of the summary of the event. There's a few things that you guys didn't get to see or didn't know happened. So with some good visuals and some talking points, you guys are able to see that. All in all, the last win of the weekend is that the car is driving onto the trailer, almost ready to go to Hungary. With some help, and we'll fly there a bit early and we'll set some things up a bit differently how we wanted with the help of BC Racing. They're gonna be sending me some stiffer springs. We're gonna be setting a couple things up differently, but all in all, this is kind of the best position we've been in all year, and every round we've improved noticeably from the last. So the only way is up. Next round is dangerous, walls, speed. So we're gonna be preparing ourselves for that, making sure the car is gonna be good to stand up for it. And you guys will get to watch it, and we are finally at an event with a ton of work involved, but enjoying ourselves, which really, when it comes to drifting, having fun is the most important thing. And we oftentimes forget that. It's really easy when you're deep grinding it out. It's very easy to forget. Thank you guys for the support and watching. Thank you guys for checking out these videos, and I'm so happy that you guys are following this journey for me. I'm learning a lot. We're gonna be able to take this, apply it to the new car that we're building, as you can see. And all in all the failures, all the issues, all the mistakes are resulting in better products, better cars, and better scenarios overall. And I'm here for it. I'm happy to be part of it. So thank you guys for watching the journey, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
2.5, see you in top 16. and he's the one driver that you can almost guarantee can take that information in and then translate it into a run. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, certainly is. And then we go through the gears, goes James Dean. He does play it safe. Look at this, he lets Josiah go. Falls off that outside zone, but Josiah back into it again, transitions back Dean. Keeps himself into the fight now, tucks up on the inside as Josiah shortcuts the circuit, misses a few outside zones. He's going to go wide here and pinch himself up. He's going to get to that zone very late. And look at Dean calculating. Waits for Josiah to get set in that zone. Up into the wall goes Josiah, and onto the door goes Dean.